Hello there, I'm Bonnie, and today I'm gonna be talking all about my setup for April. Now, it is not April, and it hasn't been April for a hot minute, but I was too busy with university life and working at a company for my internship that these videos really took a back seat. They truly were not a priority. I do this for fun and because I love talking about my bullet journal. And so for that reason, we will be discussing this theme because I love it so much. Now, I mentioned this in my previous video. This theme was supposed to be for March, but a few details came up and I really wanted it to be for April. So I did a little switcheroo and we went with blue lilies for March. And so this theme, which is deck of cards, was settled for April. So, hello, we're gonna talk about the theme, the inspo, the layouts, and the supplies I used. And I did try a new medium with this theme. So I'm gonna put up the picture on the screen, but once I saw it and came across it on Pinterest, I immediately knew that at some point I'm gonna do a full cover page with that. And the plan was always to remove the symbol from this middle diamond and put the first initial of the month here. So had it been for March, this would be M. And I came across this other picture when I was trying to find suitable fonts of the letter A. And I was like, if only there was a month close enough that starts with A. Only there was. Hello, April starts with an A and is so very close because it's right after March. So I could, have my vision fulfilled and also do this theme very soon and not push it back too much because I was truly very excited for this cover page. So I did that, and for this one I decided to use oil-based coloring pencils, and I did a lot of layering and mixing between different brands and different pencils because the plan was to use oil-based, and for the most part I did, but sometimes I went over them with regular pencil crayons or coloring pencils that are, I think, in a wax formula. So my first selection was from Faber-Castell because I tried the white polychromos and I tried it in January, and it is really pigmented and shows up beautifully on the white paper. So I was like, let me go and get a black and a red and I'll have all the supplies I needed. So I did that, except I couldn't find the red I wanted in stores and I couldn't order it because that would make it too expensive, and these are already too expensive per pencil to buy too many of them. So when that didn't work, I started layering my pencils that I already have in the wax formula, particularly for the red because I obviously couldn't get a good match for it, and when mixing and layering it gave me a less orangey bright red. So that worked, but then I ended up also ordering a set from Shein. It is 72 pencil crayons in the oil-based formula, and I was really excited for those, but I honestly was more excited about this theme, so I didn't wait for those pencils to come before I did most of the pages. So I only used those on maybe the last spread, which is my monthly review, and I wish I had waited because those pencils are awesome. So first, I obviously, as I said, I have the black, white, and red polychromos, and in the shade 199, which is the black, 121, which is the red, and then 101, which is the white. And these are beautiful, these are great, but also a little disappointing, and I will talk about that in a minute, particularly the white. I did not expect a cheap knockoff brand that I got from Shein is gonna perform better than a polychromos, but it did, and I will show you the difference in a minute. I also used the red and the white from another Faber-Castell set, except this is their regular formula, which I believe is wax based. So we have the 30, the 399, and then the 321, which is the black and the red. And this is more of the red that I wanted, a bit darker than the one in the polychromos, which is almost a dark orange rather than a red, but it was the only one they had in stock. And I did take my notebook and literally test it in my pen test page, and it still ended up performing differently here than in store. Maybe the lighting, but oh well. And then I also used these two markers from Roco. And these are actually watercolored pencils, but I used the black and the red. Again, layering. Even the black I ended up layering because like the areas where the black isn't truly a black, or there are gaps in the coloring, that is mostly done because of the oil-based formula. So when I went on it with a wax-based formula, this one or the other one from Faber-Castell, it gave me a blacker black, if that makes sense. So I ended up using these, and then when and I was happy with them. But then when I got my set from Shein, I'll show it to you in a second, I truly wish I had waited because they are just great. So the colors I used from that set are again the black, white, and red, and the colors B041, which is the red, B002, which is the white, and then B001, which is the jet black. And they came from this set. And now this set is like a skin tone set, so most of the colors are pinkish and mauvish and browns, which I honestly liked because I don't like the bright colors, but they come with enough bright colors that I have a good mix. And obviously I have other sets, so I really liked this for that reason, because there were a lot of beautiful pinks and mauves. And when it went on sale and I was already ordering, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna buy it for myself as a reward. I can't remember what I was rewarding myself for, but I ended up getting it and I love it. Specifically for the white, I would rebuy this whole set just for the white because it's amazing. So as I said, we had that cover page, and I ended up tracing it into the notebook and treating it as a coloring page. So I was working on it like all the time. Whenever I had a little bit of free time, I opened this page and started coloring. It was both therapeutic and also, you know, made me make progress in setting up April, because I did not set this theme all at once. It definitely took working on it on and off for like 2 weeks to finish all of the spreads. And I did go extra despite not having too much time, but I absolutely love it. So yes, and as I said, I used that font that I found for the Ace of Spades / April, which is the first detail that made me want this theme to be for April, is finding that font and having the A signal both April and Ace of Spades, or Ace of whichever other suit, I guess. So let's put those here. One thing I'm gonna say about the oil-based pencils, or the oil-based formula in general, is that they transfer to this page, especially if I'm working on the other side of this page and I was coloring something. Whichever area I was pressing on the other side ended up causing it to transfer to this page, which was easy enough to clean. I used a kneadable eraser by Faber-Castell also to clean the area, and the plan was always to have this be blank so that this cover page could shine on its own. So honestly, I didn't mind the transfer, especially since it was cleanable. If it wasn't, I would have been bummed and I probably would have stopped using the oil-based markers, but because it was, you know, just basically like a dust, I guess, and it was erasable, I was fine with it. Moving on to my dashboard. This was another picture that I saw while I was trying to collect inspo images to make a cohesive theme, which is of the cards falling down. And I thought it would give a lot of interest because, you know, cards are repetitive. They are squares with rounded edges and symbols and numbers on top. So there's not much variation, but this way it gave it a lot of variation, and I loved it. I showed it to my colleague at work before I glued in the calendar, and when I told her that the plan was to glue in the calendar because the cards underneath I did not color in the symbols for, she was like, no, don't ruin it. I was like, listen, I need to make this useful, and I'm not really ruining it. I'm just making it useful and functional. So I did the calendar, and I used black paper and white paper in the setup. The black paper came from a Roco sketch pad, which I intended for it to be my LTC journal, but it did not necessarily work out. It is from this notebook, and yeah, I'm just using the pages in it since all the plans that I had for this notebook did not work out. So yeah, the white page I used in one of the weekly sets is just printer paper. So to color this illustration, I used the white for the white parts and layered the reds and the blacks. And to do the numbers, I actually used fountain pens. I used the red and the black because the numbers were tiny and I wouldn't get a sharp lettering if I used one of the coloring pencils, because the edge is not, or the pencil itself is not sharp enough. So I used these and they worked really well, and it gave me an opportunity to use the red fountain pen, which I don't get enough use out of, compared to the black, which I use on a day-to-day basis, which you can tell by the wear of this. So yeah, this spread is the other reason why I wanted this theme to be for April specifically. I found this memorabilia card, I guess, of an actual playing card of the Joker in black and white, and I saved this years ago. I honestly cannot remember, probably middle school. I saved it because it was black and white and I was just starting my black and white era, so I kept it. I was like, I'm gonna get a use out of it at some point, and I did. I love when that happens. I save the most random things, and years and years later I will pull it out and I'll be like, it is your time now to shine. And this absolutely did. And why did I want this Joker card on my April setup? Well, of course, because April 1st is April Fools. April Fools, Joker, jokes, you know? So yeah, after I found this and I found the font, I was like, listen, I can no longer imagine this theme for March. I have to switch them around. There's no other way around it. And my sister agreed because, P.S., my sister does sort of somewhat select the themes for this notebook, or in an accurate manner. I give her a few inspo pictures and she selects one for the theme. And this one was for March, but I went back to her. I was like, listen, you gotta choose another one. Can't do this except for April. So yes, and this hand is done with gouache, which bothers me somewhat. I'm gonna put the picture that inspired this, because the original plan was to have the card held like this between the two fingers, but I'm gluing this in. I'm not necessarily drawing it. So drawing the finger on top of the card is gonna cause a whole lot of issues, especially since I was planning to use my newly acquired coloring pencils in skin tones. So I decided on this pose instead. And two issues: I have no experience using coloring pencils for anything other than color blocks, so blending was done by me, horrible. So I switched to gouache to fix it and cover the horribleness of it. My other issue with this hand is I showed it to my mom and she did not see it as a hand, and for whenever that happens, for some reason I cannot recover, and I always look at the spread with a little less love, even though I shared it with a bunch of Bujo friends and in the Bujo community, and all of them were like, oh, it's a hand reaching out, so it is obvious. But for some reason that my mom did not see it bothers me personally. So yeah, The third thing that the third the third thing that bothers me with this is I'm not comfortable with mixing mediums, so I used coloring pencils on all of the spreads, and then suddenly we have gouache here. But I'm obviously not gonna do anything about it. It is good enough. I'm trying to curb that aspect and be more okay with mixing materials and mediums. So again, I did this with gouache, probably white, black, maybe blue, brown, and I don't know, to mix the shades. And it is not my best work, but also hands are not my thing anymore, and I haven't ever painted them with gouache, so this turnout is good enough. And I absolutely love it. It's a decorative page, just there for fun, and so that I could use this card. And I don't know what happened when I was gluing it, but we have a bump here, so oh well. Flipping over to my dashboard. When I saw this on Pinterest, I immediately thought of this layout and decided to go for it. And I tried to find an image with 5 playing cards, but I didn't, and it always looked weird when it was 5 cards for some reason. So I ended up using just the 4 cards as themselves. But instead of using the letter A for each of the cards, I decided to use the letters of April, excluding the I. So APRL for April. And I'm okay with that. I like that. I did the mistake of gluing these pages before finishing other spreads, which I should have waited to do that right at the end. I'm gonna face issues in other pages because of these pages, but yes, these black areas came from that same notebook that I showed, and I decided that the headers, I'm gonna do them in the style of a playing card, so the letter and the symbol under it, and flipped on the other edge, so on the top left corner and the bottom right corner. So we have O for outfits and a heart, B, and the symbol B is for books, finance, university, freelance, and to get to, which is my future me problems. And that made this spread. And here I was planning on using the coloring pencils, but they did not show up well on the black paper, and neither did my inks or fountain pens, so I ended up going with gouache just on this page, and it was tedious, but it needed to be done, I guess. Flipping over, we have my first set of weeklies. This is where I said that I used printer paper, and that was a whole debacle in itself. So I saw this on Pinterest and I loved it because it included the theme without actual playing cards and rectangles. Funny because I ended up doing that style for the actual spaces for each day of the week, but I colored the white areas. I wanted these strips in the background for some reason, basically to balance out the white of the actual days of the week. So I did that and then colored the symbols and outlined them with a fine liner from Unipen, probably the A5 or A8 because this is a thicker line. And this is where the polychromos disappoints me the most compared to the one from Brotfuner or whatever that brand is pronounced as, because I cannot figure it out. Anyway, the white areas, I did them with regular printer paper, and I don't like doing that because it's so transparent that when I apply liquid glue, I can still see it after gluing and after drying. It was worse before I actually used the spread. Now it's fine and I don't notice it as much because obviously I've written all over the page, but initially I really did not like it as much. So again, I did the pages and then used the same style of headers for the days of the week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then a joint weekend. And I ended up doing Friday on the upper left corner and Saturday on the lower right corner. On the next set of weeklies, I saw this, which was a invitation design, an invitation card design, and I loved it, so I decided to do it in my bujo. Did this strip of black, again from that notebook, and then did the playing cards, and I kept them all as aces of each of the suits, because A is April in this case. And I wasn't sure how to add the headers for each day of the week, so I ended up doing this on a whim, and I don't really like it, but also I don't really mind it. I personally don't care at this point. It is beautiful. So that's that for my second set of weeklies. Flipping over, we finally have my monthly review, and this was another invitation card design that I really liked and decided to recreate here. And this is where I finally got those coloring pencils and used them here, and this blew me away because the white is so pigmented compared to the polychromos. And I'm gonna try and show it to you like side by side how pigmented these coloring pencils are. Truly outstanding, because like if I show them to anybody and I'm like, okay, this is one pencil and this is the other, which this obviously wins. It is much more pigmented and opaque, I guess is the better word, than the polychromos, which was disappointing because this is expensive. It is not cheap, because I got like 3 pens for half the price of a 72 set of pen, and it was on sale, but not by much. So yeah, and I ended up using the black paper again and did that A for April as I used it for the cover here as well. And this opens up to showcase my actual monthly review, and I did a simple one, just 2 lines: highlights, accomplished, challenges to get to, favorite outfit, union internship, book statistics, finances, and then my monthly reset. And I did the red. I can't remember if I used gouache here, probably not. I probably used one of the coloring pencils. And this is where I used mostly the one from the large coloring set, which is B041. I used it here. I ended up going with the other reds and blending them, and used this coloring pencil on top of the other red areas and the other spreads, just to make things look cohesive and similar. But yeah, that is it for my April setup. Let's take a look all at once. I loved this theme. I loved setting it up, even though it took a lot of coloring, and I loved using it, and I love looking at it. And whenever I want to impress somebody with my bullet journal, I always pull up this theme for some reason. It is instinct, I guess. I cannot say the same for May, unfortunately, and we're gonna see that theme in the next video. I like it, but only sometimes. I flip-flop between loving it and hating it. It is a good theme and I did well on it. It just did not match my expectations, but we will babble about that theme enough in that video. So yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you would tune in for more videos. I have a lot planned and a lot of creative projects. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.